Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel where today I want to walk you through how I completed both paths of the brand new Alliance War Showcase quest, which just came out earlier today. Now, if you are new to this type of walkthrough from me, I usually treat it like a big war video where I will go through each fight individually, talk about what's going on with the defender, how to approach the node set, what strategies I'm using with that specific attacker, and maybe talk through some alternate attackers just in case you don't have the champs that I'm using. Now, one thing that is different for this showcase is that they actually incorporated the brand new Alliance War map, which has most of the nodes on the new war map are new. So they've actually kind of done this like hybrid approach between the older Decay Sugar Pill tactic and the new map. So it's a little bit interesting. Now that being said, I think that they have tuned down these defenders quite a bit from previous showcases. This did not feel as difficult as previous showcases had. So, I think you'll probably have a relatively easy time as long as you kind of follow my guidelines here. Now, before we get into the walkthrough itself, I do want to spend a couple of minutes talking through the attack and defense tactics for this quest, because I think it's really important that you have a decent understanding of what's going on with the defense tactic, what it's doing, and how you need to counter it with a tactic attacker. This is especially true for the right-hand side path, which is all tactic defenders. So Spiral and Punisher are tactic defenders, and then those 4 champs on the right side are all tactic defenders as well. Serpent is not, thankfully, and then the Deathless Thanos boss is also a tactic defender. Now, in general, you do not want to go into these fights without a tactic attacker, and let's go ahead and talk about why. So the defense tactic is called Sugar Pill. It says that making contact with the defender grants the attacker a placebo buff for 12 seconds. Now this contact is hitting the defender, hitting their block, them hitting you, them hitting your block. At max they refresh, so you will only ever have 5 at most. And then whenever any buff expires or is nullified on the attacker, there's a 20% chance for the defender to go passively unstoppable for 5 seconds. So that is any buff, remember, that includes the precision buff from dexterity. So what's going to happen a lot is that when you dex a special attack, you go into punish, your precision buff expires, they go unstoppable, they punch your face in. In addition, there are some Mystic defenders on this path, Wong and Ebony Maw, who all have Mystic Dispersion. So as these buffs expire on you, the placebos that is, those are going to trigger Mystic Dispersion power gain for those 2 champions. Now the attacker tactic here is called Decay. Decay attackers are immune to placebo buffs, and then whenever they trigger any buff immunity, you inflict a 20% Wither debuff on the opponent lasting 8 seconds. These also cap at 5. So if you are guaranteed immune to placebo buffs, but any kind of buff immunity, so something from like Titania, for example, will trigger those Wither buffs. And then with the cap of 5, that is a 100% reduction in ability power rate. That shuts off the power gain from nodes like Conflictor, Power Snack. It'll also shut off Mystic Dispersion as well. And then this next line here is what makes the Decay tactic so broken overpowered. Attackers gain 35% resistance to dot effects for each debuff on the defender. So you need 3 debuffs and you get over 100% resistance to any type of damage over time effect in the game. Any damaging debuff, any passive damage, degen, red burst damage, all of it you are completely resistant to with 3 or more debuffs on the defender. And if you're using a tactic attacker, you're going to have withers on them constantly, which makes it really, really easy to get massive amounts of resistance. And then the last part here, when the defender's knocked down, there is a 25% chance per debuff to inflict a 10-second slow. So you want 4 or more debuffs on them at all times to guarantee that slow on a knockdown. Because remember, you're immune to placebo buffs, but the defense tactic can still trigger that unstoppable whenever your precision buff from dexterity ends. So you want frequent knockdowns to keep that slow debuff on them so that if they do go unstoppable, you can safely hit into them anyway. So when you're talking through tactic attackers, you really want anybody who has frequent, easy, consistent access to a lot of debuffs. And there are a lot of really, really good options in the science class, as you'll see as we talk through some of these fights. I think that's all I wanted to say about the map and such, so let's go ahead and jump right into the first path. Alright, starting off with a Spiral on node 36, and right away you're going to see the value of having a tactic attacker, because although Void is immune to Incinerate, he is not immune to Bleed, but we'll have so many debuffs on Spiral that by the time we get to that Bleed phase, we'll be completely resistant to the Bleed damage, and in fact we'll be healing up via Willpower. Now with this node, it has one eye open, so don't parry her, or at least don't hit into her while she's stunned. You can use full 5-hit combos, but once she triggers the Dancing Blades after using her special attack, you need to stick to only medium, light, medium combos. Otherwise you risk her firing those Dancing Blades and stunning you and counterattacking. Now other good options for this fight, pretty much any tactic attacker is going to work here. My favorite tactic attackers from this season, other than Void, were Deathless She-Hulk, Photon is really good, Luke Cage is really good. Pretty much any of the Science tactic attackers is really, really strong for a lot of fights on this path. And that's just because the attacker tactic, again, is just so powerful. So we're going to go into a Striker here, and then I think we'll just heavy to finish it off. Really, really quick and easy fight to start off with. Alright, moving on, we have a Punisher on node 33 with Prowess, Puncture, and Conflictor. Now, Conflictor will trigger at first on your first debuff, but once you get those Withers going with a tactic attacker, the power gain from Conflictor is going to be completely negated. So it will eat your debuff, but they won't gain any power from it. Now, you can use pretty much any tactic attacker for this fight, similar to Spiral. I'm using Thanos here just because he is so strong, and this is like a 28-second fight with him. He just has absolute insane amounts of damage, as you can see here. Just utilizing our counter punch to get our openings, one more heavy stun, and then I think one more combo here finishes him off like 28 seconds. Just disgusting amounts of damage from the Mad Titan. Alright, moving on, we have a Wong here on node 11. This is the brand new node 11 with Strike Counter, Amplify, and Encroaching Root. So with Strike Counter, Amplify, what I generally do is a medium, light, light, medium combo, then a heavy attack, then another medium, light, light, medium attack into a special attack. And if you fail to follow this type of formula, you're going to end up giving Wong a whole bunch of those pink Amplify passes, and that's going to increase his ability power rate. Now, you are counteracting a lot of that with the Withers from being a tactic attacker, but yeah, I just like to play it safe anyways. The Encroaching Root is a little bit annoying, but against Wong, it's not too bad. Frequent knockdowns, of course, to trigger the slow. That'll take care of the Unstoppable from when he charges his heavy. And then from there, you can just block the special 2, bait the special 1, you know, do whatever feels good for you in that moment. Now again, pretty much any tactic attacker is going to work wonders here because you know, just having access to that slow and those Withers makes a lot of these fights so easy. And then I think we're just going to back off and let the direct damage take Wong out. Alright, next up we have a Viv Vision on the brand new node 20. Now, similar to the previous fight, if you don't do the strike counter formula, you're going to give Viv a bunch of these vitality passives, which will increase the potency of regen effects. And then if you dash back too many times in sequence, you're going to give her a passive regen. And then with use it or lose it, you need to use your specials right away or you get power drained. So any tactic attacker is going to work well here, but without access to like regen reversal, you really want to pay extra attention to that strike counter node because the regen can get out of control very quickly. Now with Void, what I'm doing here is I'm actually purposely triggering the regen from Never Back Down and giving her a bunch of extra vitality passives so that when that regen triggers, I'm reversing it. And you can see she's just absolutely melting here with a very minimum amount of hits. Having a lot to avoid the power drain, but an easy fight for Void and pretty much any other tactic attacker. Alright, here we go. We have a Sentinel here, a buffed Sentinel on node 39 with Rich Get Richer and Footloose. So anytime he uses a special attack, he's going to gain an Unstoppable buff and an Evade buff. So you really need to keep your slow debuff active and frequently knock him down. Another reason I really like Void for this fight is that you don't have to worry about the power gain at the end of the fight because you will almost certainly have a lockdown on it, not only from the Withers, but from your own natural power gain as well. So you don't need to push him to the special 3 and tank the special 3 with the invuln boost node and then kind of restart the fight. Now, one thing I noticed in this fight is that the tactic slow was not always turning off the evade from Footloose, which is very problematic. So I think it does catch me at one point in this fight, but I'm pretty sure that's a bug. So just be aware that the evade might still trigger anyways when he has that evade buff, even if you have the tactic slow from the knockdown here. Other than that, it's a pretty straightforward fight. Sentinel specials, are very easy to dex. If you don't have somebody who automatically counters the power gain, what you want to do, like I mentioned earlier, is push him to his special 3 right away, and that's you have the invuln boost as a node here, so you can tank this special 3. That refills his health, but then at that point he can't use his special 3 again. It makes the fight a lot easier. Right there I get caught by the unstoppable without a slow active. That was on me, and then I fire off a special 1 into the abyss, but the fight is pretty much over. So again, pretty easy fight for Void. Alright, moving on, we have an Ebony Maw on node 45, which is Hazard Shift. We're going to use Deathless She-Hulk here because I find countering his special 1 with a heavy attack very, very easy and fluid with her. You might know that Deathless She-Hulk is neither immune to Cold Snap nor Bleed, but again, the attacker tactic putting in major work here because we have so many debuffs active on Maw, not only the Withers, but all those traumas, that we are completely resistant to the Cold Snap debuffs and the Bleed debuffs. And we can just basically play this fight more or less like a duel. And again, we talked about Conflictor earlier. The Conflictor will trigger on that first debuff that you apply, but once you get those Withers up from the tactic, the power gain from Conflictor is completely negated. So again, this is more or less just like a big duel. Heavy countering his special 1. If you prefer to just do like a reparry and Heavy to knock him down, that's perfectly fine too. Also use your Striker to get a heavy opening. But I love the way that Deathless She-Hulk ramps up her damage. She turns medium or long annoying fights into very short fights, which is always fun. He was being super passive here, so I ended up losing like all of my traumas and my Withers. So right there we did trigger Conflictor, and we didn't have enough Withers to negate the power gain, so he got to his special 2, no problem, we just blocked it and continued on with the fight. Re-ramping up our traumas here, and then we're going to heavy counter him. You don't want to heavy spam in the corner because, again, these defenders have stand your ground, and they can definitely resist and or parry you from repeated heavies, so don't do that. Alright, here we go. We have a Serpent on node 47. This is the first time I think a Serpent has appeared in solo content. He wasn't really that common on this node. They kind of did us a favor and put him on one of the easier nodes. So Kushala is a decent Serpent counter in general. The best counter for this fight is probably Spiral because she's immune to the Falter from missing in action. And then any tactic champ can get around Fight or Flight with the slow debuff, so that's not really problematic. I don't like Spiral. I don't have her ranked up. I like Kushala, and I do have her ranked up, so we're going here with Kushala. Now, with Kushala, you want to keep your blessings active, obviously. This node does have return policy, but thanks to the Mr. Fantastic pre-fight node, the power gain from return policy seems to be pretty much negated. And as long as you do a bunch of heavies and frequent specials to keep those debuffs refreshed, you'll have more or less a nice lid on that power gain. Using our Striker to create some space, and then we have to wait out the Unstoppable here, which is a little bit annoying. Now we're about to trigger Death Immunity, so we go ahead and fire off the special 1. I am without my Striker right now, which is a little bit problematic. He's got the power gain going, so I'm going to try and slow down my combo, fire off a special 1, and then I'm frantically tapping my special 1 again, and fortunately I get that off before he fires off his special 3. So a little bit lucky there, but we'll take it. Alright, moving on to the boss fight for this content. It is Deathless Thanos, and I'm using Chee'ilth here. Chee'ilth is actually not a tactic attacker, but I'm pretty comfortable fighting Thanos with Chee'ilth. We send her to Thanos on a bunch of nodes, even this season or this past season. So the general idea with Chee'ilth here is that she has such good and easy access to that grit passive on her special 1 that she counteracts his counterpunch, his natural unstoppable, and the unstoppable from the defense tactic. The only thing you gotta watch out for is you just have to manage that grit well. Make sure that you are always at another bar of power for when it's about to expire. And you kind of have to balance that with like the bleeds that you want to do from heavy countering his special 1. So you notice that I'm blocking the last hit of his special 1. That's so I can make sure that I'm close enough to heavy counter it. That will add new bleeds and refresh existing bleeds, or pause them, I forget one or the other. And that's where the bulk of your damage is going to come from here. Chee'ilth has an ability where she reduces block damage to what the defender's attack value was at the start of the fight. So all the Furies that he's getting from the node aren't going to increase the block damage that he's doing. So it makes her really, really safe for blocking specials like that. Other than that, again, just manage the grit, balance the grit and the special 1 between heavy countering. I do take like a bunch of risks in this fight, as you'll see, because I'm left caught kind of without that grit passive quite frequently. But Chee'ilth is just so tanky, and we always have access to that regen from the special 3 if we absolutely need it. It would be kind of tricky to get there, but thankfully we don't need it. But it's there if you do need it. Other good options for this fight, again, pretty much any tactic attacker with frequent knockdowns is going to do really, really well here. Deathless She-Hulk was kind of my backup option for this fight. OG She-Hulk, who is newly available as a 7-star, is fantastic. Again, you heavy counter with her, you get the slow from her, and you get the taunt from her Fury effects. She can probably nuke this fight down very, very quickly. With the adaptive node giving him the resistance buffs, again, I really like Chee'ilth for the direct damage from the bleeds. That bypasses the resistance, the physical and energy resistance. I also could have gone into this fight probably with Void, although I think it would have been a little bit more hectic. If I had gone in here and died with Chee'ilth, I probably would have gone in and cleaned up with Deathless She-Hulk. But we get the solo with Chee'ilth here, and the bleeds are really starting to ramp up, as you can see. We've got, what is that, 8 or 9 of them. Trigger the Unstoppable from a buff ending. And yeah, the bleeds, you're just going to tick them down one more hit. And that is the right-hand path done, all solos. And let's go ahead and move on to the left path. Alright, so as is typical in these Alliance War Showcase walkthroughs, for fights on the other path where I'm using the exact same attacker, I am just going to speed them up because there's no real sense in showing you like the same fight, same strategies at the same speed here. So again, we're going on the left side here. The only tactic defenders on the left side are Spiral and Punisher, the first 2 shared fights, and then the Thanos boss. So you can feel free to bring in pretty much any champ you want. Keep in mind that the attacker tactic is still active on non-tactic fights, so with debuffs and a tactic attacker, you can still take advantage of it and get resistance to damage over time and burst effects. So again, it's just something to keep in mind. Void, of course, one of my favorite champs if you've been to the channel before, so I will use him for pretty much anything when I have the opportunity. Moving on to Punisher here, we're going to again use Thanos, and again, this is a very easy and quick fight. Same strategy we used on the right side path, just using our counter punches for openings, building up those Furies, trying to dash in after his special attack, again using the counter punch. Take a couple hits there, that's fine. I'm not even sure I used Deathless Thanos again on this path. Actually, no, I do use him one more time for one more fight, but the damage I'm taking here is like mostly irrelevant. And then one more combo finishes that off. Alright, moving on to the left-hand side, we have a Domino here on node 27 with Hazard Shift, Poison and Cold Snap. Deathless Thanos is immune to both Poison and Cold Snap, making him a really, really strong option for this fight. With Power Focus 2, that is totally fine with me because I prefer Domino's Special 2 to her Special 1 anyways. Another really good reason to use Thanos in this fight is that he has that Panic debuff, which will prevent her from evading whenever she goes lucky. So you basically play this again like a big duel. You're immune to the debuffs. You will be taking some crit fail damage, but it's manageable. And again, you get the Panic up, you get the slow up from the tactic. You can get your Armor Break and Armor Shattered up, and that'll make you resistant to a lot of or all of that degen damage from critical failure. Another really good option for this fight if you don't have Thanos or don't want to use him is Warlock. He is also immune to both Poison and Cold Snap. Iceman is also a solid option as well. And again, you don't need a tactic attacker for these fights. Alright, next up we have a Negasonic here, and you didn't think you were going to get through a video without me using Ironheart, did you? make a mistake at the start there. I take a special one to the face, and I don't have my armor up because of fisticuffs, so I actually am taking incinerate damage until that comes back. I'm not even sure. I think we pretty much end this fight before fisticuffs like comes back, and you can see like how much damage we're doing on our base attacks. I am boosted in this quest, by the way, not like I would be boosted for a war, but like medium boosted. But you can see like 15k medium crits, 9k light crits, and yeah. So there you go. Fisticuffs is over. That was 30 seconds, and she is already at under 10% health here, and the incinerates from that special one are pretty much going to melt her off, but we finish her off with a medium attack. All right, moving on, we have a Dazzler on node 41. This is a really, really good fight for Ironheart. I've talked at length about how she is able to turn off Bubble Shield with tracking up, so a bunch of mediums at the start. Fire off your special one to get more than 5 debuffs up, plenty for tracking. Now from here, Bubble Shield is turned off, and with Dazzler you just want to bait the special one. If she does trigger the special 2, we can block it with no worries with Ironheart, of course, but her special 1 is like really, really easy to deck, so this is just, you know, combo, special 1, bait special 1. Pretty much anyone works here. I mean, you know, there always is the threat of like the dazzling dash, so as long as you keep an eye out for that, you can pretty much use anybody for this fight. And with Power Focus 2, it's very easy to kind of cycle specials with her, so you don't actually ever need to block anyways. Alright, moving on, we have a Scream on node 42 with steady build-up, so a lot of debuffs is going to make her unblockable. Power Snack, we talked about how the attack tactic counters that with the Wither debuffs. And then one too many hits, which is a Power Sting whenever I think she gets a bar of power, or you do. It's when she does. I did forget about the Undermine there, and I did get auto block. That's fine. We've got so many debuffs on us that we will be healing up from willpower, as you can see. And they will expire eventually, so she's unblockable now. But this isn't a fight like against Dust, for example, where you trigger like a debuff on yourself, and then she's unblockable for the whole fight. Again, pretty much anybody works here. Like, her only threat on this node is really the auto block, and like if you don't have a way to counteract Power Snack, the power gain can get annoying, so like bring a Nullify Immune champ, that'll work there. Like Overseer would be pretty good here, or Dazzler's Nullify Immune, you could use her here, or somebody like a Tactic Attacker with access to the Withers to manage the power gain from Power Snack. That is also going to be fine. I pretty much ignore the Power Sting damage in this fight and just decide to tank it. You know, I'm healing up some of it via willpower, but you know, I've got like health boosts running, so you can see like when I trigger it, it's really not that much anyway. And I am planning on healing up Void with a couple potions, as you'll see momentarily. So I really wasn't concerned with the Power Sting damage. Alright, so here we go. We're back at Serpent, and I wanted to try Void for this fight. We have Kushala on the team, but I was pretty sure that Void could do this fight once I realized the Mr. Fantastic pre-fights were actually given to you as a node. So I healed up Void. We're going to go in and try and solo this Serpent on 47 with Void. This is only a rank 3 Serpent, so we are punching down, which is really nice. Now, the strategy here is basically we want to keep those read debuffs active for as long as possible. So a lot of knockdowns. We do have to keep an eye on the Unstoppable. Frequent knockdowns will take care of it on his end. And then we have to really worry about the Falter, which will happen if you don't heavy or special him enough. So just got to keep an eye out on that. And when he's faltered, it doesn't really do anything because he gets that true focus buff on his special attack. So the falter really only exists to hurt you. That being said, it is an extra debuff for Void's damage. So you can see we have, what, 6 unique debuffs on him right now. That is a whole bunch of damage. You can see the red numbers just flying by. It's like, what, 7,000 or 8,000 damage per second, I think. I keep hitting into his falter like an idiot. That's fine. We are more than ahead in the health race here, about to trigger death immunity. We do have a lockdown on half of his power gain, so the SP3 threat is really not that big here. Plus we had him at 1 bar of power anyway, so the max you can really get to is 2 bars, as you can see, and pretty much as soon as death immunity ends, he dies, and I'm really, really happy with that fight. All right, back at the Thanos boss one more time, and I kind of chickened out here. Just decided to go in with Chee'ilth because I knew that she could solo. I knew that I could solo with her, and I really wasn't interested in kind of testing out Void. So kind of chickened out here, as I said. This is pretty much the same strategy that I employed for the first time around. I think this attempt actually is much better than that one, just because I'm more aware of the strategy that I talked about earlier, with kind of balancing the grit passive from your special one and heavy countering his special one in order to add more bleeds there. So again, I think this is just the better run, but I'm not going to show you it in normal speed because I really don't think it's that helpful to you. So like I said earlier, you can pretty much use any tactic attacker for this fight, as long as you frequently knock him down to get access to that slow to counteract his natural unstoppable and the unstoppable from the tactic. One attacker you might consider using is Beta Ray Bill. We sent Bill to Thanos bosses quite frequently during these 2 seasons. Bill has access to grit much like Chee'ilth does. His is a buff, and he can keep it paused for pretty much the entire fight if you know how to use him. So you get the grit up, you pause it with your buff pause buff, and then you go through your normal build cycle, detonate those shocks, and a boosted rank 3 Beta Ray Bill can probably nuke through this Thanos in maybe like 2 cycles, I would say. It's very, very easy if you know how to use Beta Ray Bill. So this Thanos is about to be wrapped up, and so is this walkthrough. I hope it was helpful to you. Please remember to hit that like button, subscribe if you aren't subscribed already, share this with your friends, with your alliance mates, anybody who's struggling. As always, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you again next time.